Coming up, playoff teams get ready for the race while everyone else wraps up their seasons. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB, local experts taking you from game to game last night in Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Jourdan Black, and thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Without number 99 in the lineup, the New York Yankees would have to settle for just 99 wins on the season after falling to the Rangers in the finale Wednesday. Locked On Yankees knows 100 would have been nice, but also knows there are more important wins still to get.
This is Stacey Gausulias of Locked On Yankees, and the Yankees dropped the regular season finale 4-2 to the Texas Rangers. Don't worry, it's all okay. I know people will be disappointed that they didn't finish with triple-digit wins. It's fine. And yes, I understand 100 would have been a really nice round number for them. But I think it's fitting that they finished the season with 99 wins, given what Aaron Judge did in 2022. See, all is not lost, except for the game. So, Domingo Germán picks up the loss, but we don't have to worry about that because he won't be in the postseason rotation, so it's okay. It's okay. Jose Trevino, who will be in the postseason, hit his 11th home run of the season in front of his former team in Texas and his hometown crowd because he's from Texas, which is kind of cool. So yeah, the Yankees have a few days off. They have to wait to see who their opponent's going to be in the division series, either the Guardians, that's right, Guardians, or the Rays. Ooh, who will it be? We'll find out this weekend. And we'll talk about the regular season. We'll talk about the possible matchups coming up on the next Locked On Yankees. And yeah, get ready. Regular season's over, people. The real fun begins.
Like Aaron Judge, Albert Pujols sat out the last regular season game and his team lost as the Cardinals fell to the Pirates in Pittsburgh. Locked On Cardinals and Pirates give us the regular season recap.
The regular season comes to an end, but it was nice to see some familiar faces contribute before it was over. Hey, it's JD from Locked On Cardinals, and the Cards dropped their final regular season game to the Pirates by the score of 5-3, which means absolutely nothing. What was important for this team is making sure that their starters are ready to rock on Friday when the wildcard series against the Phillies begins. We did see the return of Tommy Edman and Nolan Arenado to the lineup today. Tommy had been held out just to get some much-needed rest, while Arenado had been nursing a tight quad muscle the last couple of days, and both look good in their return. Edman goes 3 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs scored, plus a stolen base. Arenado goes 1 for 2 with an RBI single. It was also good to see Jordan Hicks back on the mound after getting activated from the IL due to arm fatigue and neck spasms. He gives up a couple of hits, but throws one shutout inning. He's ready to go for the postseason as well. It's also the end of an era as Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina play their final regular season game, but there's still work to be done as this team heads back home to host their wildcard series against the Philadelphia Phillies on Friday afternoon. For more in-depth Cardinals content, join us Monday through Friday on Locked On Cardinals.
Well, everybody, that is a wrap on the 2022 MLB season. The Pittsburgh Pirates defeat the St. Louis Cardinals in game 162, 5-3 to improve their record from 2021 by 1 win. But improvement is improvement. The offseason is here. It's time for optimism. It's time for a lot of different things to transpire here for the Pittsburgh Pirates over the course of the next couple months. And I want to extend a thank you to everybody who has listened to this podcast, helped it grow through my second full year. I know there were some promises that I did not keep, but in the offseason, we're going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun going into 2023, and I am proud to be your host of the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am proud to cover this team every single day, and 2023, I think, is going to be the funnest one yet. The Pirates wrap up the season 62-100, and Yins raise the Jolly Roger one last time in 2022. See you in 2023. We will be back tomorrow, though, with our season recap and even more on the Locked On Pirates podcast.
The Boston Red Sox didn't have the season they wanted, but did end it on a high note with a sweep of the Rays. Locked On Red Sox goes over the strong finish at Fenway.
And just like that, the 2022 Boston Red Sox season has come to an end. At least they ended on a high note, right? Hey, it's Lauren from Locked On Red Sox, and game 162 ended with a win for the Red Sox. They swept the Tampa Bay Rays in this final 3-game series. Very emotional, and not because they won the game, not because the season is over, but because Dennis Eckersley is retiring from the NESN broadcast booth. Tons of tributes to him throughout the game. Of course, there is Xander Bogaerts getting removed from the game and tipping his cap to the Fenway crowd. Was that the last time we saw him in a Red Sox uniform? JD Martinez hit 2 home runs. Is that the last time we've seen him in a Red Sox uniform? And now we enter a very busy offseason for the Red Sox. A ton of questions for the Red Sox. If you have not watched this game, please do go get your tissues while you're at it. We have a lot to break down and take away from this game, and Jake and I will do all of that for you on our next episode of Locked On Red Sox.
And coming up, the Diamondbacks end their season in style, and the White Sox ended up even on the year. This is Locked On Game to Game. You know, I've been trying to learn more about sports betting and make more educated bets this football season. That's why I love betonline.net. It's the #1 source for football betting info this season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on any game you want. You can head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more about it. Head to BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Thanks for making Locked On MLB your first listen every weekday. And be sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. The Diamondbacks finished their season in a fun win over the Brewers, coming from behind in the 9th. And Locked On Diamondbacks tells us who are the heroes as Arizona closes the book on 2022.
The D-backs end the 2022 campaign in style with a 4-2 comeback victory over the Milwaukee Brewers. Miller Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks here. Merrill Kelly had to give us one more great performance, Cy Young-worthy performance before he left the 2022 season, and he did just that against the Brewers. 6 innings, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. Merrill Kelly was able to lower his ERA and once again cement it was the breakout season in Merrill Kelly's career. And we also saw the offense have a nice little come from behind victory in this one because the D-backs entering the 9th inning were down 2-1. Nothing crazy. Christian Walker starts it off with a single after collecting an RBI earlier in the game for his 94th of the season. And then Josh Rojas crushes it 411 feet for a 2-run shot to give the D-backs a 3-2 lead. Then their rookie phenom Corbin Carroll tacks on 1 run more with a solo shot of his own. D-backs offense comes through late. The bullpen was able to shut down. Kevin Gingle gets a save, and we got to see a great Merrill Kelly performance as well. It was a nice recipe for success for the D-backs in the final game of the year. So hopefully everything that we saw today will just be a microcosm of what we're going to see in 2023. For more, check out the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast.
With the best record in the American League, the Houston Astros finished the season with 106 wins after beating the Phillies Wednesday. It marked another dominant regular season, and now Locked On Astros waits to see who Houston will get in the ALDS.
That's all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen. The 2022 Astros season has come to a close. The Astros have 106 wins, and they're looking for 11 more wins to win their second World Series. And that will start on October 11th. But for now, they will wait to see who they will face in the ALDS. Framber Valdez, he pitched another great game, and he pitched 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, lowering his ERA to 2.82 on the season. He is leading the league in innings pitched. So Framber Valdez did a great job. Then you have Ryan Stanek, who has the lowest ERA of all Astros relievers in franchise history in a single season with 1.15 ERA. So that's impressive. Then you have Christian Vasquez, for the first time as an Astro, hit a home run. There's so much for us to discuss on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
And on the other side, the playoff-bound Phillies didn't care much about this one either. They've got a matchup with the Cardinals in the wild card starting Friday. Locked On Phillies recaps how Philadelphia wrapped up the regular season.
That's officially a wrap on the Philadelphia Phillies regular season, ladies and gentlemen. Connor Thomas, your host of Locked On Phillies. The Phils fall to the Astros 3-2. I guess the biggest thing was Nick Maton got a hit off his brother Phil, so that was a pretty cool moment. But neither of these last two games really mattered. The Phils hit their over on win totals. I got them at 86.5, so they just cleared that by one number. Thank goodness, that's money in the bank. And way more importantly than that, they're heading to their first postseason since 2011. Hey, now it's time to gear up for the Redbirds. They'll head to St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. And not really much to take away from the game, though. No one got hurt. Everyone played relatively fine, I guess. It's okay. It was just a tune-up game. This was essentially a spring training game. And now the real games that matter, well, they start Friday. And we'll have a lot previewing that series for you on the next Locked On Phillies. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
The Chicago White Sox hope to play in the postseason this year. Instead, they finish at exactly 500 after floating around that number all year long. A team that could never get off the ground. Locked On White Sox reviews the fitting end to Chicago's 2022.
The Chicago White Sox lost to the Minnesota Twins 10-1 on Wednesday afternoon. The White Sox end the season in a most fitting way, 81-81. Hey, I'm Nick Morawski from Locked On White Sox. It was a roller coaster of a season, and it's finally over. One of the more disappointing seasons in my lifetime. Lots of expectations on the Chicago White Sox coming into this year, and they fell flat in every way possible, ending the year with a disappointing loss, 10-1 to the Minnesota Twins. However, that 81-81 record is fitting for a team that was up and down and played 500 baseball for most of the year. Sox have a lot of question marks this offseason. The biggest one is who will manage the White Sox in 2023. For more, tune in to Locked On White Sox.
The Chicago Cubs left it all out on the field in their final game of the season, scoring 15 runs on the Reds to hand Cincinnati its 100th loss. Both our Locked On Cubs and Reds hosts go over the final showing for each NL Central team.
In the season finale, the Cubs win a big blowout win against the Reds, and they cover the preseason over-under total that I took at 73.5. So thank you to them for that. As far as today's game goes, weird game. Adrian Sampson left injured early. Ian Happ left injured early. Big swing of the bat from David Bote. Two big swings of the bat from David Bote, actually. And then the Cubs broke it open. Overall, it was a, not a great year for the Cubs, but a weird year in the fact that I think if I said before the year the Cubs would be at 74 wins and you would go into the 2023 offseason or the offseason going into the 2023 season feeling really good about things, you'd be like, really? But that's the case here. It wasn't a good season, but it feels like really good things are ahead for this team, and I'm looking forward to talking about it each and every day on Locked On Cubs. Cubs win 15-2, close out the 2022 campaign with a big win in Cincinnati.
Well, we've got another season in the books where when the regular season ends, the Reds season ends. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and the Cincinnati Reds clinched history on Wednesday. It's only the second year in the history of the franchise that they lost 100 games. The only other year is 1982. 40 years ago, they lost 101 games. So officially the second most losses in the history of the franchise in one season. And you're probably thinking, well, after a year like that, aren't you glad that baseball's over? Aren't you glad that this season is over? I don't know, man. A day with Reds baseball is better than a day without Reds baseball. And there's going to be a day in the future when the Reds make a deep run. Maybe they win a World Series, but it's not this day. Today, we've got a lot of uncertainty as we head into the offseason. The Reds have a lot of questions that need answered, and the folks that are answering these questions are folks that very few people, if any, trust to come up with the right answer. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what the Reds need to do and what they're most likely to do. and what the future looks like, because there's plenty of bright spots in this farm system, plenty of bright talent that the Reds have coming up. It's just, how are they going to build the team around that talent? We've got lots to talk about where that's concerned on the Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure you join Steve Offenbaker and myself.
Well, that's all for today on Locked On Game to Game MLB. Thank you for making Locked On MLB your first listen every weekday. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, make your next listen your team's Locked On podcast too. I'm Jourdan Black, and this has been Locked On Game to Game.